So starting over, I'm Ashley Bouder, principal dancer with New York City Ballet. I'm the founder and artistic director of the Ashley Bouder Project, which focuses on diversity, inclusion, and gender equality in leading roles in the performing arts, like choreography and musical composition, things like that. And I'm also a children's book author now. I have a book called Welcome to Ballet School coming out this summer. So I have some questions that people have already asked. And one is, how long have you been dancing? I've been dancing for 30 years. I started when I was 6 years old at Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet. I danced there until I was 15 under the direction of Marcia Dale Weary, one of the greatest ballet teachers I think of all time. My mom actually went there for 8 years when she was younger. So it kind of runs in our family, studying ballet. I decided, another question I have is, when did you decide that you wanted to be a professional? And I think I decided when I was like 7. After about a year of ballet, it just made sense to my body. I loved it. I just understood it, and I couldn't really see myself doing anything else. I didn't want to do anything else. I loved school. I was a straight A student, but nothing there really appealed to me more than ballet. So I decided that I wanted to be professional when I was 7. And then I think when I was 9, I decided that I was going to be a principal dancer in the New York City Ballet. That's what I wanted to be. One of the former students from my ballet school, Darla Hoover, had been in New York City Ballet, and she was now a teacher, and she was coming down and had started teaching, and I got to take one of her classes, and I got to introduce to the balancing technique, and I just thought, that is for me. That's what I'm going to do. So with that goal in mind, I pressed on. I auditioned for School of American Ballet summer program when I was 13, but decided not to go because I was too young. My mom decided I was too young, which I think she was right for me personally. I don't think I would have done very well. But at 15, I re-auditioned. I got in. I got a full scholarship for the summer program, and I went there. I was in the second highest level, but after a couple of days, they moved me up to the highest level and asked me to stay for the year on full scholarship. And I stayed. And then I started that fall in the year 1999. And about 9 months later, I was an apprentice with the New York City Ballet, which was very surreal to me. I came into SAB with the attitude that you're going to be the lowest in this class. Don't expect anything. You're going to be here for 2 or 3 years. Just be patient. And that really didn't happen that way. To my pleasure, and also surprise basically all year long. And so I was 16 years old, apprentice with New York City Ballet, and all of a sudden they took me to Japan and Scotland, and it was really surreal and a wonderful experience. And I've been now in New York City Ballet for almost 20 years, and a principal for over 15. So that's where I'm at in my career now. I decided about 5 or 6 years ago that I wanted to do something else on the side. As ballet dancers, we're basically told what to do all day long by our directors, by our teachers, by our coaches. We have to do these steps. We have to dance this way. Yeah, we have artistic license and things like that, but you don't really get to choose the choreographers you work with. You don't really get to choose, to a large degree, who you actually dance with. So I decided that I wanted a little bit more control over my career, and I founded the Ashley Bouder Project with that idea in mind, that I was going to choose dancers and choreographers and composers that I wanted to dance with. About a year after I founded that, and I put on my first production, I started to notice something, and one thing, a really big impetus was a poster that New York City Ballet had put out for one of our fall galas. We had 5 new ballets being choreographed for this one gala evening. It was really, really exciting. And they put up this big poster in Lincoln Center, and it was all in black and white. And it was 5 pictures of all of the choreographers, and they looked identical almost, especially in black and white. They were all white men. And I thought, wow, that's not right. And there were a lot of attention surrounding that. I think a lot of people thought that there was an article in the New York Times about it. And I decided to take my project and change the mission and the focus to creating more equality, more diversity, more inclusion in those kinds of roles like choreography, because there seemed to be an uproar, and I thought I can do something about this. I can, in my choices, hire women or people of color or, non-gender specific people that need the work and need the opportunity. So that's where I'm at with my project. And then I think you just saw my daughter run behind me. um, she's actually in my children's book. This is my latest project that I started that I think is right here. Actually, I don't know where it is. I thought it was right next to me, but my daughter Violet's in it, and it's a book that's also diverse and inclusive and gender equality driven. Boys wear tutus at some point. The girls dress as men, as suitors for the Princess Aurora and the Sleeping Beauty, which is part of the story. And yeah, so that's basically who I am and what I stand for. And I would like to answer some more questions from you guys.
Ashley, if I can jump in, I'm not sure if everyone is aware of it, but there is a chat box, and I'm talking to all the attendees now. There's a chat box that you can begin like making comments, or you can ask questions, and Ashley can see your questions there and then respond to them.
That's true. I do have some questions already, so if you guys want to go ahead and type in your questions, I'll get them in the chat box, but for now I'll answer the questions that I do have. Somebody asked, should I stay competitive if I want to dance professionally? I think it depends what type of competitions you're doing. One of the biggest competitions, Youth America Grand Prix, is amazing if you want to be a professional dancer, because if you make it to the finals, the heads of the Paris Opera Dance School and the Royal Ballet School and schools all over Europe and the United States and the director of the ABT Studio Company come and watch. And if you win, people get offered positions at these schools or a contract with ABT Studio Company. So that is one amazing way into the professional world. If you're doing competitions that aren't really that type of competition, then I would say get out of that and get into some pre-professional program at a ballet school that's attached to a company, because that is a wonderful way into big professional companies like Pacific Northwest Ballet, San Francisco Ballet, New York City Ballet, American Ballet Theater. A lot of people go through those schools, Boston Ballet, Miami City Ballet. They all have schools that are attached to their companies, and that is a wonderful way in. But if you're doing competitions where you get, the big trophies and all of this stuff, that's not a real feasible way into a professional ballet company. You can still be a professional dancer, and there are lots of different types of dancers, commercial dancers and Broadway dancers and things like that. So it depends really what you want to do. But if you want to be a professional ballet dancer like me, I would go for the bigger ballet competitions if you're going to do that, and get yourself into a pre-professional company by going to their summer program and trying to stay for the full year in the company that you most identify with. And how important are competitions in social media? I think that, again, if you're from a small town, the competitions like Youth America Grand Prix or Varna competition or Prix de Lausanne, those competitions, if you can get into them, can be really wonderful. But I would really encourage you to pick the summer program attached to the company that you most like and try to get in there. Audition for all of them, see where you fit, and try to go up that way to companies, because that's typically the way you go. And when you're in those pre-professional schools like School of American Ballet, I know that they have directors from all over Europe come and actually watch the advanced students at SAB, and they offer contracts, they offer apprenticeships and core contracts to those that are not getting into New York City Ballet. So the directors of the school really work with directors of companies that are looking for dancers from all over the US and Europe that come in. And I'm sure that other schools do that. So the big pre-professional programs really do try to help everyone get a job. And then as far as the importance of social media, I think as a student, I'm not sure it's really that important. I don't think directors are really going to look at your social media and judge you based on that. I think that for professionals, just the following and getting people interested in ballet and keeping people inspired is really wonderful. And you can do that as a student as well. But I don't think it's going to help you get into a company. Like, your amount of followers is not really going to matter to your director if you can't do a nice pirouette. So, you know, there's that. All right, let me read some of these. How many hours do you dance? Well, right now in quarantine, I do about an hour ballet class and a half an hour workout each day. And then I teach. I'm doing a lot of private lessons online, and I've just started some open ballet classes, which are really, really fun. If you guys want to sign up with me, they're super fun. There's lots of smiling faces. I keep the video on, so we're all there together. It's just a really lovely way now to have human connection, because I'm feeling a bit lost myself, just home with my family. It's just 3 of us here. We don't really go outside because we have a young one. We have a back patio that we go out, and I try to stand in the sun for 5 minutes at least every day, if there is sun. But yeah, I mean, I dance in those classes a little bit. I show the combinations, but for myself, it's like about an hour per day now. I'm trying to give myself also a little bit of a break while I can, because I don't see big ballet performances happening anytime soon. So I'm not so keen on, staying in crazy, amazing shape. I just kind of want to stay in shape enough that I feel good about my body and my strength level. What do I recommend to maintain ballet technique during this time? I do recommend giving yourself a daily class. If you're on hardwood, minimal jumping. And what I do for my jumping, I've had a lot of injuries, so I don't really like to jump on this hardwood floor. So I'll do maybe little small jumps, and then I kind of quit. And I really rely on my workouts to keep my jumping muscles strong. So I do like cross training for that. And I recommend going on YouTube and finding one of your favorite dancers. I have some stuff on YouTube. Megan Fairchild has some amazing things on YouTube that you can take those classes. Or if you want live, a lot of people have live Instagram classes going. I'm going to have one next Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a dancer from Royal Danish Ballet, Holly Dorger. So it's going to be really, really fun. She's amazing. I also have one on Monday with the Fit Ballerina, Maud, from Canada. So there's lots of interesting things going on. I recommend just keeping yourself entertained and taking classes from people that you admire and that are there for you.
Ashley, as you look at the questions over there, you may need to scroll up because we actually have questions. If you can see the timestamp on them,
yeah.
Like going all the way back up to like around 12:10, some questions are up.
Okay.
I just want you to know that you can scroll up and see a whole bunch more questions.
Yeah. Okay. What are tips for improving my arches? Well, I stretch, but don't overstretch because you can really hurt yourself. I never had great feet when I was younger. You can see my daughter back there. When I was younger, but I felt like when I got into New York City Ballet, my feet got a lot better. And I did it through strength, just through just the amount of point work I did, and really trying to really work my feet and make them strong. And then somehow my arches got better. But I would recommend just some stretching. Just stretch them every day for maybe, a couple minutes on each side. It doesn't have to be a lot. Again, don't overdo it because you don't want to stress yourself out. But that's my advice for that. And does my daughter dance? Well, you can see she's dancing around the background a little bit here and there. She's in pre-ballet and tap. Well, she was in pre-ballet and tap classes before all of this happens, but she does sort of dance with me a lot. She does know a lot of ballet moves. When going to SAB over the summer, what are some tips you have? I would say just work hard in all of your classes. Listen to your teachers. They've all been in New York City Ballet. So they know what the skill sets that you're gonna need for that. And also, I would recommend taking advantage of New York City, like getting out there, going to the park, doing all of these things. I hope that the summer program is still going to go on this summer. At this point, who knows? But those are my tips for you if it happens. If not, I hope you get to enjoy it next summer. Do you ever get upset or mad over always getting told what to do in the ballet world? Yeah, that's why I founded my company. Also, as I developed as a dancer, as a human being, as a mature adult, my viewpoints aren't always what my coaches are, and I find myself at this point actually being coached by people who I outrank. Who work just in the core or just soloists and who've never actually done a full-length ballet like Swan Lake, and now they're coaching me in it. So I find myself not getting mad or upset, but just being very assertive with my point of view and having discussions about things. But yeah, when I was younger, sometimes it was just like, like, can I just do me in class? Like, can you just like leave me alone for a second? Especially as like you get to be a professional and you get into your own routine and your own groove, and somebody tries to disturb that because they're telling you what to do, it gets to be a lot. But I think that in any job, if you're not the boss, you are told what to do anyway. So I think maybe that's just a life fact. In times like these, where the future is so unknown, what do you think us dancers should focus on to maintain our technique and our motivation to continue our track to becoming professional dancers? Again, I think you should go online and find professionals who are putting out quality material. And I know that I said Megan Fairchild before, but she's putting out tutorials that are really, really helpful for placement and technique. That's also what I focus on a lot, is placement and technique, because we can't move and we can't dance. I also think I was joking with some of my students the other day that we might all come out like super turned out from this, because most of us don't have Marley. We're on slippery surfaces. And so we're actually forced to really, really use those muscles to turn out. So I think we might all come out better from this. And then be so happy when we can actually move. And I think if we all actually do focus on building that placement and turnout and everything, we're going to be stronger and better dancers when we can actually dance. And just think how turned out we'll be when we have Marley. What age do you think you should try to get into a year-round program? How many hours a week should you train if you were trying to be a professional dancer? Well, I came to SAB when I was 15. I know some people who come when they're 13. I personally would have been too young at that point to come. But I think it depends on you, depends on, how you feel, how close the year-round program is to your home, to your family. If it's in the same city, it's, or, your 2-hour drive is maybe not that bad. But yeah, I think like 15 or 16 is probably best, because you'll be there for 2 or 3 years before you graduate high school, and that's enough time to adapt to that school, to see what they want, to see what you want, and to really actually have them develop you. Also, for the amount of hours, mine, when I was at Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet, I took 18 ballet classes a week, which seems really crazy because I did a full day of high school. We danced a lot. We danced all day. We danced at least 3 hours Monday through Friday after school, and all day on Saturday. So we danced a lot. But I think when I came to SAB, I had 10 ballet classes a week, each an hour and a half, except for the 1 hour point class and 1 hour partnering. So I only had 10, and that was a drastic difference for me. I would recommend maybe a little bit more than 10 if your school offers it. Again, you're just gonna have to go by the school schedule. But when I joined New York City Ballet from SAB, it was a drastic change, because now all of a sudden I have class at 10:30, and if I have rehearsals all day and a show, it's 12 hours in that theater, right? The shows get out at like 10:30, so it's almost 12 hours. So I don't know. Maybe if your school offers less classes, you do more workouts and cross training and you keep your body going, because you don't necessarily have to be in the studio to be strengthening yourself, to be keeping yourself in shape and physically healthy. You don't necessarily have to be doing ballet the whole time, and it's not really that healthy to do it. New York City Ballet has a gym on our 5th floor in our theater, and you can guarantee at any point in the day there are several dancers in there doing cross training. We have gyrotonics, we have Pilates machines, we have free weights, we have like a weighted machine kind of deal in the corner. So there's lots of different ways that you can be moving and staying in shape and training that don't mean that you have to put on your ballet slippers or your pointe shoes. Have you ever been injured or intensely burned out? And if so, did you fully recover and come back? I have had so many injuries. Very, I've had some devastating injuries. I sprained my ankle several times when I was in the Corps, and 3 times when I was in the Corps. Each time the same ankle, each time tearing a little bit more of those ligaments. And then I made it to principal and I sprained the same ankle again. And all of my ligaments on the outside of my ankle were gone. So they told me, you know, you can be in a boot and not move for 12 weeks, or you can have surgery and sew it back together. And so I decided to have surgery, sew my ankle back together. And it was about a 6-month recovery to come back. But I was really young. I was only 21, so I healed very quickly. I'm actually a naturally quick healer, which has helped me a lot in my career. That was my first devastating injury. Actually, that was not my first devastating injury. A year before that, I had herniated a disc in my lower back. And I'm very lucky because my nerves in my back are not right next to my spine. They're a little bit further away. So I didn't have a lot of pain down the back. Sometimes people have like zings down the back of their legs, and there's a lot that goes on. Mine would just, we figured out that there was something in my lower back because my calves started going numb, like just turning off. And I couldn't bend forward without lower back pain. So I took a little bit of time off. I sort of worked through it and strengthened the muscles beside the disc that was going back and forth, so that I could fully recover. But even to this day, I think I was like 19. I still have back exercises that I do every day for my lower back. I also have been operating. It's going to sound crazy, but I've been operating without an ACL in my right knee, completely torn, for like 10 to 15 years. We're not quite sure when it disappeared. We do know that it frayed over time, and that in 2012, I did a grand jeté and I landed just on one leg, just a simple grand jeté, and I heard the tiniest little pop. And no pain. I didn't wobble. I didn't do anything, but I heard a pop and I just knew. I was like, this is not good. And I sat down on the floor, and I had been doing a solo in the studio in front of like 30 people. And I just sat down in the middle of the studio and I said, I need to be carried up to physical therapy. I'm not going to walk on this. And everyone was like, well, what happened? Like, we didn't see anything. And nobody heard the pop. I just felt the pop. So I went for an MRI that night, and the next day I went into my doctor, and he said, I'm sorry, Ashley, we cannot find your ACL. just tears. And this had been my doctor through the herniated disc. He had done my ankle surgery. He had known me since I was 15 years old. And he just hugged me, and we just sat there forever. And I got another MRI that was like smaller slices to try to find if there was anything there. And they found that the top of the ACL is what connects your shin bone to your thigh bone, right? So it's a huge stabilizer in your knee. And the top part that was on my femur was actually scarred onto the PCL, which is an even smaller ligament that sort of does the same thing as the ACL, but cannot work on its own. And then the bottom one was just kind of flat. Like, it was just there. It's still attached to the bone, but not attached to anything else. And I went to a knee specialist that does a lot of NFL surgeries. he's one of the leading ACL repair surgeons in New York, and he really recommended surgery. And I said, well, how long? I'd obviously been dancing without this ACL for a while. They figured they thought that the pop was just the last bit of it or just scar tissue. And it didn't cause any swelling. So they're like, okay, it's obviously not a new injury. We don't know what the pop was, but your ACL hasn't been there for a long time. And they had, at that point, estimated 5 to 10 years that it had been gone. And so they were like, well, you've been dancing for like half of your career without this. So what do you do now? And he recommended surgery. And I was like, I don't think so. And he said, you'd be out for a year and a half to have a safe recovery and not re-tear it. And they were going to take part of my hamstring and make an ACL for me, which would also lower my passe. But for me, I'm thinking, this is my right knee. I turn to the right. This is my fouette knee. All of a sudden, I'm going to have fouettes with like a half passe. Like, I can't deal with this. And the other option there were two other options, was taking some of my patellar tendon, but then that would take away my jump. And that's one of the things I'm known for in my career is jumping, having a high jump. So that didn't seem okay with me either. And then the last option was a cadaver ACL, but they've been proven to stretch out fairly quickly. So 5 to 10 years after the surgery, it would be like you don't have an ACL because it would stretch out and wear. Like they just wear out very, very quickly. So none of those seem like viable options. Also, being off for a year or a year and a half was not a viable option for me. So I decided to go the physical therapy route and see what happened. And I said, well, what would that look like if I just didn't get it? And he said, well, I think that you're going to blow out your knee at some point, meaning that you're going to come down from a jump, or you're going to go to do a fast like turnaround, and something else or a couple of something else's in your knee are going to go. Like another ligament's going to tear. And I said, okay. And what would the recovery look like if something else tore and I needed to get it all repaired? And he said, well, you'll be out for a year to a year and a half. And I was like, okay. He goes, but it would be painful. And I said, I'm okay with that. Dancers, we dance in pain all the time. So I decided that I was just going to go for it. I was going to do all my knee exercises. I've already been doing back exercises for years. I can add another couple of things into my daily routine. And I'm sitting here almost 8 years later, and I'm fine. right after that, I had a couple of tweaks where it would put me out for a couple of weeks where I was just learning how to dance with this new knee, because it was a lot more wobbly after that one pop. So it must have been something connecting it, and just, learning what I can and can't do. And that's it. So here I am, just working with my knee. So that's probably been the most devastating, is like something that's ongoing that I have to always check in with. Always, always, always. All right, so let's go on to another one. How am I able to practice on point at home? Well, I do have Marley. Actually, if you look right behind me right here, there's 2 rolls of Marley hanging out in the corner. I got a friend of mine who runs a facility gave me a spare roll that's about 10 feet long, and then New York City Ballet actually had Marley sent to all of the dancers. So I've got 2, so I can sort of like dance around and maybe like do a variation, very small, without traveling that much. But yeah, I've got some Marley. I think that you can also just do your releves like on a piece of carpet or something that's not as slippery as your hardwood floor, or find a place to do that. Or if you're in a house, like go outside on the concrete. Don't jump or anything, but just do your releves where you won't slip. If you want to keep all of that up. And then how do I improve my turnout? Yeah, I think that for me, my turnout is improving because of before I got my Marley, the embarrassment of being on a hardwood floor and not having a fit position anymore. I think that, there's lots of exercises that you can do. Again, like if you go on YouTube and you like look up some of these dancers that are giving tutorials, there are so many helpful tips there that they give exercises, and you can do them along with them and listen to the corrections while you're doing the movements and the steps. And I think that's really helpful. You can take classes from people who focus on that. Um, how do you prevent injuries? Um, well, I do cross training. I do a lot of maintenance. I do the exercises that my physical therapist tell me to do. I go to physical therapy, not now, but I was doing that. Um, I think that some things you just can't prevent, and that you're gonna have injuries. Some people more than others. I've had more than my fair share of injuries, but I think you can do a lot. You just stay healthy. You eat healthy. You take care of your body. You do what your doctors and physical therapists tell you to do. You listen to your body. If it hurts too much, then it's probably wrong. Um, but also, I think part of dancing is being injured. So you also have to be able to accept your injuries as they come. Try to be in a good mental space. Have a good team of people around you, if it's family, if it's friends, just to keep you in a good headspace. Some injuries can seem really devastating, and that you're never going to be back to dancing, you're never going to be back on stage, but trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and like really like putting your head down and doing the work to get back there, accepting the sacrifice that you're going to have to make, and knowing that you're not alone, because so many dancers have been through this. I had what seemed like a tiny little thing in my ankle turn into a full year of off and on and off and on, and missing really important performances that were important to me. And I think I like in the year 2009, it was like 9 months where I did 2 ballets, and I was off the rest of the time, and it was really, really hard for something that I thought was a really tiny injury, but it turned out to be really painful. So just know that there are those of us who have gone through it too, and you can always reach out to people. That's the kind of the beauty of social media now, is that you can write someone a message and have them respond if you're having a hard time. I have a lot of people reach out to me on my Instagram, and I always try to write back and help everyone who's going through something that I've been through. What's it like to be a principal dancer? It's awesome. I always get to be in the front, and I always get to wear the tiara, and I really love what I do. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that you don't really think about, like all the core members are up in the dressing room all together getting ready for a show, playing music, joking around, dancing, and I'm sitting by myself in my dressing room putting my makeup on and doing my hair. So it can be at times really lonely. Sometimes you want that space, and you want to get in a good headspace to do your show. But other times, in the middle of the season, I'm like, man, I just would like to sit with somebody and do my makeup and have a conversation. And then also the pressure of it is, I'm standing in the wings, and I look out there, and the core members are dancing together, and they're smiling, and they're laughing, and they're having such a good time. There's so much camaraderie. And then I come out and I dance by myself, and I'm in front of everyone, so I can't see anyone. And there are certain ballets where you really feel alone, even as a soloist. I remember doing the soloist part in Stars and Stripes. So the first regiment, when the curtain goes up, it's like a big like triangle, and the lead is in the front, the soloist girl is in the front, and you're just standing in 6th position with your arms out to the side. And before the curtain goes, there's 12 core members, and we're all talking and joking and laughing, and it's really fun. And then the orchestra starts, get in our position, and the curtain goes up, and I can't see anyone, and I can't hear anyone. All I hear is music, and I feel completely alone, even though there's 12 people behind me. So, there are those things that are like that. But other things is like, I get to have nice pointe shoes, right? So when I ask about like changing my pointe shoes in my special order, I really get good attention with that. I get, my own dresser for the performance, and you know, there are nice things like that. And, you know, I also get to dance these amazing roles in ballet. Like I get to be the Swan Queen. But at the same time, it's really, really hard. And, you know, you're out there by yourself. So you have to, you know, you have to be okay with being alone, and completely responsible for yourself, and, and having that pressure all the time, because I never get to go out there and just forget about everything and have fun. You know, everything I do is really difficult. So, you know, as much as I can let myself go on stage and everything, there is those 32 fouettes in Black Swan, you know, or there's always something that is so difficult. And I think that the pressure can wear you down a little bit. And somebody asked about being burnt out, if I've ever been burnt out. Yeah, and when I had my actually the ankle surgery, I had been pushing so hard to get to principal. I was in the corps for 3.5 years, and then I was a soloist for 11 months, and I got to principal. And my ankle surgery happened a little over a year after I had been promoted. And I had been pushing myself, but was also being pushed so hard. I was on every single night. I was in my soloist year, I was having 2 or 3 debuts a week. So I was just learning new ballets and getting out there and doing them. And I was exhausted. And when that happened, I thought that I would feel differently if something like that happened to me, where I was taken off stage for a long time. I thought that I would be devastated and I wouldn't know how to deal with it. And I was like strangely okay. I was like, oh, okay. And I realized it was because I needed to rest, and I needed a break so badly, but I didn't realize. And when I actually got to sit down on my couch, I felt like, this feels so good. So, yeah, like I've been really burnt out, and there have been other points where I've been really burnt out too, and I've had to press through them. And it's like I wake up in the morning and you're just so tired, and you just think, I don't want to go to the theater today. And but there's always a point during the day where I really have fun and I love it and I go out on stage. But you know, I'm one of those people that like, yeah, like when I get tired, I'm just kind of like, I want to sit down. Yeah, so do you recommend any companies for someone who's trying to start to make a career out of ballet? I just, again, think that you should find the company that speaks to you. Look at the repertoire of the company, look at what the dancers look like. Do you fit into that? Is it something that you like what they do? Is it something that you don't like, and then you don't go there? And then try to go to their school if that is something that you really like. I'll tell you right now, all of the major ballet companies in the United States do balancing. So there's that, and a lot of them do Jerome Robbins, and that's kind of the bread and butter of New York City Ballet. So if you really, really love those and you don't mind not doing so many classical ballets, New York City Ballet would be the place for you. But if you want like a well-rounded, do like a lot of classical and the balancing and the Robbins and new pieces, places like Pacific Northwest Ballet, Boston Ballet, San Francisco Ballet are really, really good for that. They do a more rounded of like all the kind of ballet genres in their repertoire. Is it possible to become a member of a professional dance company after dancing in college? Absolutely. I've known several dancers who've gone to college and then gone into ballet companies. Jorge Andres Villarini is in Boston Ballet now, and he went to, I think he went to Marymount here in New York, and then he joined Columbus Ballet in Ohio. Then he joined Martha Graham. Then he was in DTH, and now he's in Boston Ballet. So he was there. I know a dancer that actually is the director now of Grand Rapids Ballet, I believe, James Sofranco. He was a soloist in San Francisco Ballet after going to Juilliard. So absolutely. And, I've had friends who, a friend of mine, Lauren Fadley, who is now a principal in Miami, she was an apprentice with New York City Ballet, left, went to Indiana University for college for 4 years in their dance program, and then she went to Pennsylvania Ballet and became a principal very quickly. So it's absolutely, in the cards for people if that's the way you want to go. What are some tips for young dancers who are working to get on point? Strength. You need to strengthen your ankles and your feet. You have to absolutely be strong enough to go up there. Getting your feet to point enough to be up on your box, having the strength to do all of those releves. Good things to do are lots of TheraBand exercises with winging your foot, with sickling your foot, with just pointing through. A lot of things like that you can do. You can wrap the TheraBand around like a pole. So it's like a circle, and then you put your foot in it and you get away, so it's pulling on you, and you can do releves like that on flat to try to strengthen so that you're getting all the proprioceptor muscles, all of those like fine balancing muscles, strong enough for you to handle point work without hurting your ankles. How long does it take to get into point? I think everybody is different. I went on point very, very early, but I am a very muscular person and very naturally, very just strong. I actually don't have to do, now I'm doing a lot more cross training than before, but when I'm in season, I don't really do anything else besides the exercises that I'm given because I'm very strong, and I sometimes overwork and can hurt myself. I went on point when I was 8. Very, very, very young. But I also had a teacher that was an expert and was there with me all of the way. And so it's different for everybody. I think the recommended age now is 12. So it depends on what your training is, how many classes you take a week, how strong you are, what body type you are. You know, if you're very skinny and you've got very small bones and you don't have dense muscles, then it's going to take you a little longer. You're going to have to do a lot more strength training. You're going to have to pay attention to that. And your teacher should be paying attention to that for you too. But, you know, for somebody like me, I was just kind of an exception, and I was built like a like a little tank, and I could do it. I have like a gymnast body. I'm kind of short and muscular in that way. What are some good tips, techniques to improve my left and right splits? Okay, well, I actually can't really do a full split. I can get down there, but it doesn't look nice. So I think just stretching. I mean, a lot of times it's like your inner thigh and your hamstrings don't let you go. So just doing some inner thigh stretches. You can just do your straddle splits, and that'll actually help your right and left split. And stretching, just doing generic hamstring stretches, laying on your back, getting a belt with your flex foot and pulling your leg towards you. Even just like sitting with your legs in front of you and bending over, stretching your hamstrings. You should never sit in a position that hurts, right? Something that feels like a little bit of a pull is good, but if it hurts, you should never sit there like that, right? You have to get out of that position because you will actually hurt yourself. And if you overstretch it, then you can't actually stretch it for a really long time, right? So it'll take you backwards. What exercises are best for the lower back? It depends what your specific thing is for your lower back, but I usually start with I lay on my back, and to open it up, I bring one knee, I like lay with my legs down, and I bring one knee up like this, the other knee up like this, and then both knees up. And I do that just laying on my back. I do that about 5 times, and I go kind of slow. That one's from my chiropractor. And then I do one where I lay on my back and I put my arms to the side and I bend my knees like in a sit-up sort of position, and I just flap my knees, both knees to both sides about 20 times to open up and to warm up my lower back. I do that every day before class. And I also do like the Pilates, like cat cow, like you're on all fours and you arch your back and lift your chin, and then you do like the Halloween cat like position. And I do that, you know, like maybe 5 to 10 times, things like that, and that'll keep your lower back moving and things like that. And I do just regular stabilization that works my abs and my back at the same time. So I'll do I'll do it on all fours, and I'll lift like one arm and one leg straight out parallel to the floor, but they're the opposite. So like left arm with right leg down, and the opposite. Some like good stabilization exercises like that. And I also I do where I just stand kind of neutral and with my legs turned in about hip width apart, and I try to turn on the multifidi muscles around my spine, and I hold it for 10 seconds and then I let go. And I do that 5 to 10 times too, but that's very specifically for the herniated disc that I had, because I need to keep those muscles turned on at all times so that they hold my back in place. So those are some of those. Do you have any tips for a knee that has been a little achy for a long time? Like, should I get an x-ray or just leave it and just rest? Um, I I mean, I would not, I mean, I don't think that you want to go to the hospital or your doctor now if you don't have to. If it's been achy, I think that you probably, I mean, you have some damage in there. My left knee, which is my good knee, it's always a little achy, and my doctor said I probably just have some cartilage damage, like wear and tear or things like that. I would rest your knee if after you dance or after you worked out. I would just ice it. Just that those are some like preventative things that like maybe it'll go away. Maybe it's just um, just like a little thing, and like just doing that small amount can save you. What's your biggest disappointment with the photo shoots of live programs? What is your advice to avoid such disappointment? Photo shoots of live programs. I'm not quite sure what that means.
I think what he means is, sometimes as a dance photographers, we shoot either dress rehearsals or performances for the company, and I think what he's asking for is he's really asking a dance photography question more than anything. But so I think let's move on from that one, because that's really a dance photography question.
How are you staying so positive and motivated during this time? I have a hard time staying motivated and happy all alone and isolated. Do you have any tips? Yeah, I'm constantly online all day long teaching privates and open classes, but also after my daughter goes to bed at night, my husband and I try to Zoom our friends. So we have cocktails with friends or just play a game. We played like a virtual poker game the other day, which was super fun. We all like PayPal'd in like $20 and like got our chips and played, and it was nice because we can see each other, we can interact, we can do things. So I recommend that. Staying motivated, doing the live, like tuning into live stuff is nice, because it's not a recording, and it's like you don't know what's going to happen, so that's exciting. But also, I would just like stay in touch with your friends, call people. We like all day long. My husband's on the phone with people. Our whole family keeps calling all the time. So I would just reach out, just absolutely reach out when you need it to your friends and family. Let me see. Do I have hip flexor exercises? I get pain when I train a lot. Not necessarily hip flexor exercises, because that's not something that you should really be using. I concentrate a lot in my classes on using your inner thighs and your seat muscle to support your leg, especially when you go to side for like rondejam on layer and things like that, because you do get pain a lot. And I used to get that too, because I'm not necessarily that turned out. And I think that strengthening your seat muscle and strengthening your inner thighs will go a long way to being able to hold your leg in a different way and being able to turn off your hip flexor. Because once you turn it on, once that turns on, you can't really turn it off, and you also can't really turn out your leg to the fullest potential. So some things I do when I see a lot of people in my class lifting their hip and using that hip flexor, I'll do a rondejam combination, and I'll start with passe. So I think of bringing my toe, that passe toe, straight up to my belly button, like scooping it under and really squeezing the back of my knee, using my hamstring and trying to turn on my seat muscle through that hamstring. and then I développé out for the rond de jambe layer. And hopefully that gets me to turn off my hip flexor, right? So if I leave my hip alone and I really lift up my leg, trying to bend my knee instead of lifting it up from the hip or the quad muscle, lifting it up from underneath. So again, thinking of the foot coming up and the ball of the socket rotating down so that your hamstring and your seat muscle can work together. And then when you développé your leg out, hopefully you'll feel a lot lighter and that hip flexor will not be on, or it'll be on to a less degree. Because it's really hard if you've gotten into that habit to just all of a sudden change, right? It's really hard for your body because even if you're mentally telling it, don't turn on, you have so much muscle memory that it's just going to do it, right? So you're going to have to really focus on retraining that and doing things maybe in a little bit different order in order to do that. I also recommend, like when you're doing développés, especially to the side, is when you do passe, get that before you try to straighten your leg, get your knee up in the attitude as high as you can without the hip, and then développé. Because when we start to développé out here, our leg becomes really heavy very quickly. And for a lot of us, the top of our leg, our quad and our hip flexor will turn on. So if you get to that nice turned out passe, and then you try to just get your knee up to your shoulder with using your seat to turn it out and up, that should help as well. Okay. I have, a hypermobile kneecap. I was wondering if it would even be good for me to get onto point. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on your amount of turnout too, because if you're plieing and your knee is not over your toe, then no, I don't think that is, I don't think you just want to go down that road. But that's a discussion for your doctor and your physical therapist to see if you're capable. If you're strong enough or turned out enough, then maybe. But for me, I would just rely on the experts for that one. What is the most popular position? Arabesque. And fifth. And fifth. Definitely fifth. Fifth, I tell everybody in my classes, fifth is home base. That's where we live. But I think that besides that basic position, I think the most popular thing that you'll ever see is arabesque. The most famous thing in Sleeping Beauty is the Rose Adagio and the promenades, and that's attitude, but it's basically, the same thing. The leg is behind you. And then you look at Swan Lake and it's like arabesque city everywhere. So I think definitely that is the most popular. What brand of point shoes do you wear? Are the brands I like more than others? I wear Block. I wear custom made blocks. I used to wear Freeds. Growing up, my first pair of point shoes was Capizio. I had a lot of Capizios. I've tried Chacat Veronese, which I did not like because my toes didn't point in those. I've tried Suffolk, and my toes didn't point in those either. And I switched from Freed to Block because my makers kept either retiring or they were very old, and some of them died. And I was going through maker after maker after maker, and it was just so frustrating. And the owner of Block came to me and said, I want to make custom point shoes. Can I try for you? And I said, yeah. And so he took a pair of my blocks and copied them. And now I'm like 28 versions of that point shoe later, I have what I like. Although I do have to say, my shoe size changed and my foot shape slightly changed after I had my baby. So that was like a whole nother deal. That was like, I was up to like version number like 15 before the baby. And then my daughter's almost 4 and I'm up to 28 after that. So you can see I'm very picky, but they're really willing to work with me. And I like Blocks because they're harder than Freed. I actually wear very, very hard point shoes, but it's because I'm a very strong dancer. I've broken a lot of pairs of point shoes. Like when I was in the school, I remember going up in a pair of Freeds and they went pop, pop. And we're like, ah! And not because my feet were that good, but because I pointed my feet and I broke the shoe. So mine are really hard. A lot of people in the company, they feel my shoes and they're like, how can you even dance in them? But I bang my point shoes, but for Block, I don't have to put extra glue in them. They last me. They're really great. I really like them. They're always willing to go back and tweak something for me and put a little rush order on it if I have some important shows coming up. When I have Swan Lake and I only have a few pairs of point shoes left and I start to freak out, they they quickly make me some point shoes and send them to me, so I feel better about having options, because as you know, handmade shoes are all different. And so I'm someone, I can't just put on a pair of shoes and go. I need to feel good about them. And that changes daily with how I feel. So
Ashley, before you take those other questions right there, I think there's a question that nobody's asked, but I think it's really kind of important for everyone to hear. And what kind of advice would you give dancers who are going into like an important audition?
um, I I would try to be calm about it. I know we all get our nerves and everything. I used to go into auditions, and then all of a sudden I couldn't turn to my good side. I could turn to my bad side, like really random. Um, but um, try to carry your confidence. Um, just try your best. Wear a leotard that makes you feel good. You know, wear your hair the way that makes you feel good and beautiful, and you're going to present yourself in the best way. Try not to look around you. Don't d- you know d- don't focus on the other dancers. Focus on you, because you're going to look at somebody and go, oh, like, why don't I have that? And that's not a good headspace for you to be in your auditions. And just try to go in there with as much confidence and personality as you can. They look for not only your technique but your demeanor. Do you look bored? Do you look mad? Do you look, however you look? Try to don't overly smile, because you don't want to be like, pick me, pick me, pick me. But try to be pleasant. Try to be cheerful, and take the corrections if they're given. Listen to all the corrections that are given. Ask yourself if you need those. They're looking for people who are smart, intelligent, paying attention, eager, not too eager, but eager, and somebody who's going to be a hard worker. So even if you're not the best one in the class, that's not necessarily the only criteria they're looking for. They're looking for how your capacity for improvement and how much they can mold you to, and how well you'll fit in with their school or their company.
Okay, we're getting close to wrapping up now. I really appreciate your being here. But one thing I want you to share with everyone is two things. I want you to let them know how they can apply for your project. And then the other thing I'd like you to talk about is if anyone's interested in doing, a private session with you, a virtual session with you, how they would contact you and get that information as well.
Okay, well, so applying for my project, if you're a composer or a choreographer or anybody related to dance, you think you could come in and collaborate in any way, you can email the Ashley Bouder Project at gmail.com. And I or somebody will get back to you. We're a little slow at the moment, but somebody will get back to you there. If you want to sign up for a private session or do one of my open classes, you can email me at bouderballet@gmail.com. And that information is on my Instagram page. There's a flyer up for the open virtual classes, but I'm also taking private sessions too. So you can email me there.
Sorry, I turned my mic off. Well, I really appreciate your coming here and spending an hour with us. It was just wonderful listening to you and hearing about your experience. So any final words you have for everybody?
Just try to stay positive. Reach out when you need it. Take a virtual class with people, because you'll be able to see other dancers, and the teacher will be able to give you corrections, and it'll make you feel better. It makes me feel better to see people and interact, and that's why I've been starting these virtual classes. So you work with what you can at home. If you don't have Marley, it's fine. Do what you can. If you feel like you can't do your point work, do exercises that encourage those muscles. Do a fun workout. Go online. I went online the other day and I did like a Paula Abdul dance workout, because it was like, my husband and I, we could not pick it up. We were so funny. We were just like, just do silly things, play games, and, be good to yourself. If you need to sleep in, sleep in. Don't feel bad about what everybody else is doing. I've slept in a couple of times, and it feels good. Be nice to yourself, give yourself the room to feel whatever you're feeling. And if you need human interaction, take a class, call a friend, have a Zoom coffee date, things like that. I think everybody's pretty much feeling the same way. And if you can get outside without going near anybody, get into that vitamin D sun. It feels good.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, do you have any final words?
I just wanted to thank you, Ashley. That was so informative and lovely to hear you talk about your experience. And I know a lot of the dancers really appreciate it and all the advice you gave. So thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Special thanks to Ashley, and I look forward to doing our next one, but thank you again. So good night, everybody.